let's talk about SlapBall strategy. What would I do while I'm waiting for more games to come out and do more data analysis on that? I just want to talk about what I would do, what I'm noticing, and my first impressions of it. So this is a fun game that YouTubers made up. This is just what I saw looking at it. I would love to go out there and play. I haven't played it yet. This is just me watching. This is just me speculating, okay? So I call it the Gals formation, which is kind of funny. But it's a guard, an attacker, a long-range shooter, and then a setter. Those are the three, and you're set up in this diamond or T positioning, right? And so this is to allow people to have full range of the court and utilize all of it. So there's a threat everywhere, all at once, no matter what, typically. So here's what SlapBall is if you don't know what it is and you're just still on this video because you're curious. Basically, in this black area, you have to slap the ball into the goal, right? So basically, you have to bounce it, slap it, goes into the goal. That's a score, right? If you want to throw it, you have the neutral, attack, and the shots. However, the neutral zone, you can just throw it, but the attacks, you can't carry the ball in there. Someone's going to have to pass the ball to you in the attack zones, and then the shot squares are big enough for basically a foot, and then you're going to have to stand there and then throw the ball in with a bounce to go into the goal for it to count. Those are the main attacking rules. The defending rules are these green squares, or green square and triangle. You can have a goalie here and a defender here, but only one in each at a time. And then you have this hallway, which attackers can use to go in and out or go across sides, right? You can't do anything in here. So if someone throws a ball and you hit it, that's a foul, and it changes possessions. Same thing is attackers can't actually go across these defending zones. So there's a lot of fun stuff that goes in it. Those are the basic rules. Go check out Warehouse Games. SlapBall Champions League is going on as I'm making this video. It's really fun, and the first game goes over really well the rules, and the players are still learning it. So there's a little bit of mishaps to give good clarification of what's going on. So here's the Gals formation. And the first one I want to talk about is the guard. Now, watching the first game and learning these new rules, I really like having someone near the goalie at all times to have this really sharp angle to play. And I think the Reapers weren't really utilizing the hallway too much, but the Freezers were, because they had him going back and forth, and then they started incorporating kind of the setup slapper technique or positioning that the Reapers were doing. And so he was just switching sides. And I think that's a perfect role for a guard, is if you have someone that doesn't have a lot of cardio or something, or you have a really tall guy, just having him post up and going back and forth, offsetting the rest of the offense, is just going to be annoying, because then everyone's going to be basically, the defenders are going to always have a knife behind them. And that's always a good threat for the offense. Now, the long range guy, I didn't like how the Freezers used it, but I think just having one guy back always could be beneficial, especially in a formation like this, where you just have him be bouncing back and forth. Now, he can be easily sent, but this is his main territory, and just in a chaos, no set play position, this is a good way just to keep the long range there and be ready to attack. The attacker is going to operate from the hallway to the shot squares. So he should be able to come in and do kind of a medium range slap goal, or go and do a short range slot. And so he's kind of the mid-range specialist and the main option for the setter. The setter should be kind of trying to be working with him to provide for other options. And the attacker should be also considering all of his other options as well as a setter, right? Because sometimes the attacker is going to also have to double as a setter to try to get these fun position openings, right? Because if the setter always has the ball, if he's the one mainly passing, then everyone's going to be focusing on him. So if the attacker can also get the long range or the guard involved, that's going to be really good. And then the setter. To me, I think what people have been doing in the game has been too much chaotic. Like, I think it's been too much, right? Because you would have Zoe just cover this whole middle area, and then you would have Jolly just kind of running everywhere. And I think that's just too much. I think that's too much movement for a setter, because I think everyone else is going to be struggling to kind of counteract and move around you. So I think this is how I would imagine the setter would look, is you can either go and help engage with the guard. You can go help the attacker and get into his, like, try to help him formally attack. Or you go back and you drop down to the long range and you help the long range, right? I think those are the three options, and you should be playing halves, right? So the attacker and setter should always be on opposite halves unless you got a worked out play. I think this will help because you can set up a lot of great attacks that I saw in the game that I'll bring up here in a second. But when you cut in half, that just allows the long range and the attacker to do some fun things, right? Because you can send the attacker, the guard can be there, and the long range can come to the shot square. And so you have three on one side, and the setter will either have an open shot or he has three options. And so you can switch sides. Obviously, there's a couple ways you can do that. That's not a big deal, but this is just basic setup that I thought would work really well. And I'm excited to see what Jake and John Boy, what they're doing and what they figured out, because they have very different teams. So, but let's talk about specifically plays. So the first one is Fangs, right? And so what Fangs is supposed to be is these two people coming down on the goal. The setter, what I saw was if you put these guys shoulder to shoulder, basically one guy is going to be open, right? If you set up around the hallway, no defender can be in the hallway. So you can pretty much pitch the ball into the hallway and one of these guys can slap it down and get a pretty good look at the goal. Or you can just like hard go to the guard and the goalie can't move out of the fear of one of them scoring. And the guard has a good look, a pretty sharp look too. Or the defender in the triangle comes and guards the setter, and then he just throws the ball up to the attacker, and he gets a strong look at the goalie as well, right? Gets more look at the goal, more angle possibility. And so I think this is just a good one that worked really well at the end of the game that I hope more people are going to plan to use, because you don't want to set people, you don't want to box people out, but you're blocking the hallway, right? That's your zone, and you can always go into it if it's not working and try to attack the other side with the setter. So I think there's some flexibility in it as well, but it's an easy call. Then what I like to call is travel. This is when you send long range in and you have the attacker. And basically the setter is now in the middle and you have options. And so the option is basically just moving the ball around the world, trying to get a very good look, and it's supposed to be fast. So if everyone's guarding heavy one side, you shuffle the ball around and you get it out. This is really good if people are playing man and not zone. So if the goalie's alone, you can easily commit hard and then shuffle around and get a great look. Because this guy could come over here, but if you do it right, you should have a great shot going straight into the goal. You don't have to run up. Or if they're just scared and they just post up the zone, then you can send any one of these guys into a slap or help the guard get a setup. So I think this is going to be it's a pretty solid strategy. I think it's really basic. You could call it common sense, but that's kind of what I'm going for. And then the last one is just Mary, which I think is Hail Mary. I think the idea here is you want to utilize the hallway to its maximum, and you have both the guard and the attacker go through the hallway. Now, the attacker could be the setter. It could be either or, but I just use the setter in this case just because that might be the all-around player. And you just want the guard and the attacker just going back and forth in the hallway and trying to pull the defenders to them. Because if the setter has the ball and he's all the way back here, you use the guard and attacker to pull the whole team over to them. You throw the long range, he throws it, and he just gets a good look, right? And this is just a general, like, it's supposed to be a Hail Mary, right? If you call this, I'm sure it's close to the end of the game, close to the end of the half, or maybe you're just frustrated and they're just playing really tight. This is a good way to maybe sneak one in. So, yeah. How would you call these is a more interesting way I kind of thought up. So because it's called Fang, you don't say Fang ever, right? You just say animals. So you can say tiger. Tiger has fangs, right? But if I say eagle, that doesn't mean fangs, right? It's a joke call, right? It's just a red herring. And so this allows you to like confuse them and to not know what's going on. Then you have travel. And here I would probably say, like, you just say what you want, right? So you can say, hey, if I say cities, then don't do anything. But if I say states, then do something, right? So I could sit there, and if I'm talking like, oh, Phoenix, right, doesn't mean anything. But the minute I say Arizona, then we kind of go into this style of formation. Maybe not exact, but this style. It's a good way to throw them off. And then the last one's like Mary. So if I say George, right, doesn't mean anything. But if I say Sarah, then it's a girl's name typically. And so you can go into this Hail Mary formation, or at least you're saying these calls for them to kind of see if that's a good way to go about it, right? If you're the setter and you and the setter are switch positions here, it's a good way for the attacker to go, oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's a good idea. Let's go here. I think Zoe was trying to make calls, but he had to go straight up to Jack and some other people to make it work. So I think this is a little bit more of a fun way to go about it. But this is just like quick and easy strategies that I came up with that I thought was fun. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys have come up with. As I'm making this, the second game is tonight. Can't wait to watch it, see what they do. I will be making a video on that. Until next time, talk to y'all later. Peace.